Alright, and now to make our own REM pod, we have it's called a Theremin kit. So this has, as you can see, a bunch of components that we're going to use. We're going to not use this antenna. We're actually going to try to use our own, in which we've got this antenna. If you notice, it has a 3.5mm jack. If you will focus, please. So this antenna, that's what we're going to use, but how do we use 3.5mm antenna on something that uses wires? We have this little adapter. Plugs right on, and then has two clamp down wires, which, again, please focus. There we go. And alongside all this, we have our trusty soldering station, which is already preheated, 375 degrees Celsius. We have a flux pen, so this will let us put flux on, which cleans and makes good electrical connections. Come on. There we go. So that's ready. And then we have a, if I can get this in front of you. It does not want to focus. Alright. Now this is 0.8mm solder wire. So very, very thin. Hard to see. So let's go ahead and open our kit up. So it comes with a bag of components, as well as some instructions. There. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we have 7 resistors, and you won't really be able to see this. We have 3 capacitors, 4 LEDs, 2 chip sockets, 1 regulator, 1 piezo, 1 battery connector, 2 push buttons, an aerial antenna, which we are not going to be using, and 2 ICs. One is a 555 timer, and one is, not sure what that is, but that is pre-programmed for something. Although we're not too concerned with the fact that it's pre-programmed, as we won't be using that function. Need a knife. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and lay everything out so we can make sure that we do have everything. So for our 9-volt battery, just going to set that aside. Here's our one, there's the other one. 2 IC sockets, 2 ICs, piezo, 2 push buttons. Set those aside. This is, let me open it back up one more time. Okay, that is a capacitor. These 2 are capacitors. So we will just set these up out of the way. We have 4 LEDs we're going to move up out of the way. The antenna that we are not planning to use. Three resistors that are the same. And the other resistors are all different. And then we also have our regulator. And then we have our little board, which is labeled. Make sure you can see that. Labeled nicely. So you can see here. So R1, R2, those are resistors, which will line up with the schematic here, where you'll see R1, R2. So quite simply, we'll just open this up. We'll go ahead and set our first item on here, and now we're going to try to put R1 in. Move this up and towards me. So R1, 1 million ohm, brown, black, green. That looks like brown, black, green. So we'll just go ahead and lay this over top and see how much we think we need to bend them. So we'll try to bend down our wires and we'll push it through. And now we'll just spin it over. Excuse me, like this. Grab our flux pen and quickly dot both these with a little bit of flux, clean them up. Grab our solder here. So you want to touch the pad. That's one. That's two. We'll go ahead and try to clean our tip off again. That's our first one. Now you're going to want to go through, use a little pair of clips, and try to cut this. Because I don't have those with me, we can potentially just keep going and try to bend these out of our way. But let's spin this little bad boy around, and it is soldered through, not moving. So we'll bring this up so you can see that it went through. And to the other side, you can it's soldered to it. We could probably add a little more solder. Yeah, we can probably add just a little more solder. So we'll just go ahead and try that real quick. That looks much better. And so now all we have to do is do the rest of the resistors, and we'll come back to the next one. Okay, so we're gonna turns on. Look. If you followed along, yours should look somewhat like this. You may not have this kind of antenna. You may just have a wire, and that works just fine. Now, I wanted this because I was planning on putting it in a little project box. I'm not 100% sure about that, but you got options of putting in project boxes. I would rather not leave it out like this, or you could always put it in like some kind of stuffed animal. So let's just go ahead, hook this up. We're going to plug in a battery. And we're just going to go ahead and explain real quickly what all it really does. So it turns on once you have power, and if it detects anything near it, and that includes antenna. Oh, it's not on. Give me a second here. So if it detects anything near the antenna, detects anything near the board, or the battery. So as you can see, let me. Currently, I'm about 2 inches from it. When I cross that 2-inch threshold at the top of the antenna, you know, I'm getting in there. And that's just what a normal REM pod does. So, you know, this doesn't have a temperature sensor or, you know, alert you when the temperature changes. But those are all simple things that we could build later. But for right around 20 bucks, that's not a bad piece of hardware you can build yourself. Add in a project box, however much that's going to cost you, and you have a very nice piece of equipment. I would definitely say to cut one of these wires and add on-off button, because you don't want to have to sit there and disconnect the battery every time you want to turn it off. But for now, I think it's just fine. Let me know what else you'd like me to try to build. I have a few projects in mind that I'm working on getting wrote down of what kind of hardware they're going to take and how to interface with certain sensors. I'm working on a temperature sensor, and I'm not sure exactly the details behind it. Like, I want it to pull a temperature every so often, and then I want it to send out an alarm if it drastically changes, but I don't know what to consider a drastic change. But until then, hello. But until then, you know, give me your ideas, give me your feedback. What else should I try to build? Thanks for watching. If you're not already, subscribe, leave a comment, hit that notification bell so you know when we upload, which is, you know, every Saturday about 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, of course. If you're not already, follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Although I don't use Twitter as much as I should. I need to get better.